right, well, we are outside the Meadow House and the time has come to actually do a nice tour. Now, we won't focus on the outside. I think we'll do the outside afterwards because as you can see, it is very foggy out. It's very beautiful, but I imagine after we do the interior of the tour that this will all have blown off and we'll be able to see a bit of more of the house a bit better. So come on in. You can see that we've already started to make things a little festive. All right, well, welcome to the Meadow House. I think one of the things that we'll probably still want to do here is have a little rack that we could hang our jackets and our sweaters and everything when we come in, but for right now we have this armoire and that will do. So it's like a few different things that we still want to do in here. But let me take you through this because it is something that we have been working on for about 2 years now. And we thought this would actually take us about a year. And I think like that's totally normal, I guess, for any renovation. But what I'd like to do today is just like take you through what we had done and what we're doing, and then maybe some of the other videos that we focus on is more of like the things in the Meadow House, because everything here has been absolutely curated from the floorboards all the way to the pillows to the accoutrements and everything else in between. So it was really, I think, enjoyable and somewhat relaxing being able to design this from the floorboards up at the end of the day. And I would imagine that the aura of this house to me feels a bit more what I'm calling like cosmopolitan country. So we like really leaned in the fact that we are calling this like the Meadow House, which feels a bit more like a cottage. It opens up to the great meadow outside, which you saw me walking down this morning. And that makes this feel a bit more of what it is. So here's the living room. And it's somewhat of an open concept space, but we didn't knock this wall down completely. So the biggest changes that we made here in the living room is that this had been a full wall. And we actually cut this little space out to bring in some of that eastern facing light coming through. But still providing a bit of privacy if somebody were in the kitchen and wanting to work or eat and somebody was still in maybe the living room or the bedroom. Plus, it allowed us still more wall space to get a kitchen pantry on one side and anything like pictures and electricity and everything on the other side. So that was really important to us to not have a total open concept. The second thing that we did is that there was another window here, and that got covered up, and we have a chimney that pushed out onto the other side. that was Saunders thinking about design, because the house from the outside had this weird kind of valley between the two roofs. Like the roof didn't come together at a point, it came together like this. And Saunders wanted to create a bit more interest, and it made sense for us to have two different types of heating here. So we have a mini split unit, but we also have a wood stove. And I think partially the reason for that is that when you're in the country, electricity always goes out. So you can't rely on electricity. And it's also almost unaffordable to consider solar for everything and having a backup battery. And then you might not have the orientation of the house correct. So if you wanted to put solar panels on it. So for us, it made sense just to have a wood stove, especially because 70% of this land is actually forest. So that's one of the other things that we did, is we got rid of that window, and Saunders expertly put this like wood stove in with the help of Walt. And then he also poured this cement pad and then did a colored cement. We have some great footage of that, him putting it in. And we kind of went back and forth, right? We were just like, oh, should we put stone here? We didn't really want to tile it because we don't have that much tile in the house. We didn't want grout lines. We thought, oh, can we get a big massive stone? And then you were really experimenting with a lot of different things like micro cement, and we have Tadillac and clay. And so we decided to do this, and then you had like this kind of rough edging, which we really like how it got finished, and then just a rounded corner so nobody like stubs their toe on it.
Yeah, the most painful thing you could ever do is be relaxed in the living room and then hit your toes on one of those edges. So.
Yeah, well, I really like this because I think like that terracotta salmon color tends to be like maybe the third or fourth most used color, and so we brought that in with a lot of the planters. And this also gives a really nice foundational base so that you could put your like wood and your fat wood and your coal and extra plants and all that kind of stuff. So that's good. We actually still have to test this out. So, you know, we've been so busy doing lots of different renovations, not just the Meadow House renovation. And I think that that's something to be said. A few reasons why this actually took a lot longer than expected is, one, supply chain issues, two, not finding the right contractors for the job or realizing that we may actually be the best people to do the job in the way that we want it, and three, that we were just doing multiple projects all at the same time. So if we only focused on the Meadow House, I think we probably could have finished within a year, or at least like, you know, at most a year and a half. But for the most part, you know, we're very pleased with it because we made amends with ourselves and said, you know, we'll just do it at our own pace. But you'll notice that we have the clay walls, so that was something that you saw that we put in. We have a whole how-to that we did that. And we experimented with clay in the chicken coop first because we didn't know whether we wanted to actually carry it up onto like the fifth wall, which is AKA the ceiling. And we love the way that feels. Like this house, I don't know how to communicate it, but it just feels so alive. Like when you come in, you immediately feel at peace and calm. And that is not how this place felt before, because as you recall, this was like an old nursery office and it was painted the colors of like raspberry and mint and pistachio and all that kind of stuff. And it was a little like over the top 1970s plant vibe.
And the wainscoting.
And the wainscoting, which actually we salvaged. So the wainscoting was like this kind of weird orangish spray tan color. And we were like, oh, that's not good. And I think somebody had said, oh no, don't paint that because it is beautiful wood. And you probably can't even get this type of wainscoting now, but we had no option. That wood color just didn't look good. And we painted it like this kind of white at first, but then it looked too sterile. And we went and we found this green, I think it was called Planet Green, which is nice, and a nice sagey color. And wow, that made all the difference. And so we really leaned into that with that color. And I think it worked really well with this kind of neutral color of the clay. And then we have this color, which matches more of the window frames on the outside. So that was something that I think that felt right for this house. I think when we're designing a place, we kind of lean into what's already there. Like, where is it sitting in the landscape? How does it feel when you walk inside? You know, this didn't feel like a modern house. It felt like a little cottagey house, so we kind of leaned into that. I will mention that, because this is a big feature, one of the things that I'll say about a lot of the furniture here, or the things that we had found for this place, or things that I already had in my collection, were either made in the USA, made in New York, made by an artisan, or something that we found at auction, or something that I already had in my collection at my place in Brooklyn, for instance, or maybe we brought it in from like my old house in like Pennsylvania and stuff like that. So a lot of this stuff has a story. This actually happens to be made in the USA. The textiles are even made in the USA. The sofa, we just really liked the way that this vertical nature, because again, we kind of leaned into what this house is giving us, and we loved the wainscoting. We wanted to keep it. I had wainscoting in my grandmother's house. You know, it was like one of those things that you would see in a country house, so that like when you dinged it or a kid would walk up to it and bang it, you know, your walls wouldn't get damaged. So I liked that idea, and then we just leaned into that vertical nature. So the vertical nature of this, the vertical nature of even the carpet going all the way up to the wainscoting, and you'll see that we carried that into some of the furniture pieces here, like the armoire, and in the tile backsplash that I'll show you shortly in the kitchen, we also chose to do the tile vertically. So that is something that we really wanted to lean into. So yeah, so a lot of this stuff, most of it is sourced locally. Sonder did some of the furniture himself, and then we also found a gentleman in New York, probably about 45 minutes away from us, who does beautiful furniture, and we costed it out, because you could go to some of those online discount furniture places or even local places and get a piece of furniture, but because this house is only 600 square feet, we had really specific constraints, especially with the design. So you're kind of working with what's already out there, and sometimes it doesn't really fit, either in style or size. So we worked with this gentleman by the name of Lee, and he did this amazing work. And we basically gave him some of the specs and the designs that we liked and said, hey, you know, is this something that you could actually do? And he was able to do that. I think still we might want to paint this like in maybe a sagey color or something, so give it a little bit of a pop or appeal, and I think that will really make it feel a bit more modern as well. And then we picked out all the hardware. Even on our storm door outside and things along those lines, our sheds, we have this handcrafted brass. So we decided to do this antique brass for all the hardware. And one thing I could share, like when you're designing a house, is like just spoil yourself on the hardware, because it really gives something that seems maybe not so special, like a really special touch. So, you know, this wood is, even though this is beautifully handcrafted, I mean, there's nothing special about this wood. It's not like some rare hardwood or anything like that. It's probably just pine, right?
I think it's poplar. Well, then this is pine. On the inside, I think it's poplar.
Poplar, yeah. Well, which will be easier to paint, actually, if we do. Yeah. Because poplar is nice to paint. And then we have, we wanted to make sure that we maximize storage. So with the armoire, we don't have like a closet here. So this will be people's closets, which is why I think like having a little section right here to hang your jackets is really good, because then you can keep your jackets outside, especially if you came in out of a rain. You don't want to hang that up with the rest of your clothes. And then this is actually something I brought in from Brooklyn, and like, you know, anybody could like store their, if they're sewing kit in here or whatever, or if you have like an extra blanket or extra pillows or things, you can pop them in here.
Yeah, more likely.
Yes, because I love blankets and pillows.
Well, another thing to say about the furniture is that it's very hard to find furniture that matches each other on the internet. And working with someone here locally, we can easily like find stuff that matches. Well, we could make it so it matches.
Yeah,
so.
As a set. Like, how do you find something as a set? Especially because if you had so many different pieces of furniture, which could be its own look, But in a small space, the eclecticness could actually feel also a little bit too chaotic. And if I come down here to work or if I come down here to relax, I feel I'm just in like a giant hug. That's what this place feels like. It's so calming. This is one of the furniture pieces that we didn't get handcrafted. I think we actually just sourced this from Wayfair, but I really liked it because it had this acacia wood top in a herringbone pattern, and it was a little rough. And then it had this antique brass finish, which is really hard to actually find things here nowadays as antique brass. A lot of the antique brass or brass craftsmanship is actually coming from India, but that was not the case in, turn of the century here. We actually have a lot of like copper and brass items, and so you have to kind of source them from estate sales or auctions and things like that, which I do go out often and try to find some things here and there to kind of match with what we already have. This is the bedroom area. As you could see, this is attached to the living room, and some people actually had the suggestion, why not put the kitchen and the living room together, which is like kind of typical for an open concept. But what I would say about that is that all the plumbing was on this side, and the kitchen was on this side, and the bathroom was on that side. Changing the plumbing would actually increase the price so dramatically that we just kind of kept it from here. And I think it would have made sense like if this was like a house for like 4 or 5 people, but it's not. It's for like 1 or 2 people. So I think that actually makes sense that you're gonna have your own privacy, no matter if it's like your kitchen and your living room or your bedroom and your living room together. But this is actually, texture was a big thing for me. So we have some of this velvet, but then on the other side, it's this really beautiful linen, which I think really mimics the color of the wall, and the sage mimics the color of the wainscoting. And then here you have some of that vertical lines in this linen bed, and I think like linen is one of my favorite fabrics for beds. It just feels really natural. Even actually the sheets are linen, so I kind of matched that with the wall. And even the mattress, it's like a latex mattress made in the USA, and it has some wool in it as well. So my mom actually slept here when she came, and she said, oh my God, she had slept on the couch and said, I could have fallen asleep on that couch. That couch is so comfy. And then she came and slept on the bed, and she's like, but then I slept on the bed, and that's even more comfy. So was very pleased with all of that. And of course, like, as Sandra mentioned, we have lots of pillows. But yeah, I mean, it's like a whole thing. And then Sandra had suggested, what about in every bedroom we have some type of stuffed toy, some kind of mascot for each room. And I really liked that idea. And I leaned into the fact that this could have been Kippy, my little red hen's place. So I found a little red hen, and I don't know if you've noticed, but back into the living room, you'll notice that we have my little mascot right here. This was from Brooklyn, and this is really lovely. My friend Cynthia, who's a stylist in New York, she basically styled this and photographed Kippy, and her husband does these beautiful painted backdrops. So that is a backdrop he painted. And then Kippy looks like a painting on top of that, but that's my real Kippy with her little brass locket of love. So I thought that was perfect for this, and we kind of leaned into that. And then I kind of went all out because I've started collecting all these little red hen things. So you'll see just all these little beautiful books and memorabilia. I think that it gives this house like a home feel. Look at this. Look at the little red hen game. This is my favorite, possibly, this one. I love the illustrations. I love kind of more that realistic but fantasy images. Like, look at that. It's so cute. I'll show you my favorite one though, hold on. Look at her little fuzzy feathered butt. And she's basically asking all her friends to help her make the bread, and they all want to eat it afterwards. And she's like, no way, this is my favorite one. If I could get that as a print, I might get that. That's hilarious. So I don't know, I love that type of stuff. So yeah, I sourced a lot of the books here, either stuff that I had that I already had that I think fit really well here, or also that I thought would be perfect for reading, you know, just things to kind of calm you down. And all these old books, like this one is Alice in Wonderland, but it's from, I think, the 1800s. Look at this, Christmas 1902. Unbelievable, right? And then just the illustrations. So, I mean, I could spend hours just looking at this stuff. I love that. So you'll notice I have a lot of the plants in here. Most of the stuff is in Brooklyn, but we'll do a houseplant home tour on the other channel, Plant One On Me. So you'll just kind of see them as part of the background here, but then I'll show you what we have on the other channel. One thing I should say is that we just put this up. So this is a painting that I got at auction and just felt it was really pretty. I loved how somebody took the time to actually paint this on 2 different boards, so it feels like 2 different scenes, yet it still feels connected. And it was like roughed around the edges, and I actually liked that look, but I didn't want it to deteriorate anymore, so we just put it behind some museum glass, and then we got this beautiful frame. I really love this frame, and I didn't realize like how special it was, but it's this gilded process where people actually put the gold leaf on it and scrape it off to get some of that color. So it's just phenomenal to have like some of that artistry here and like know a bit more of the history of it. So that was kind of neat. Oh, and then I have like the book that you could sign when you come in and you actually stay. So our friend Kuhn stayed. I don't think my mom actually signed it, but you know, I think that's kind of cool. Like we'll be staying down here, but then if we have guests, we could put our guests down here as well. And then I even also got a collective herbarium book. So I just got this in, so there's nothing in it. But I figured if people want to go out and like pick a plant and put like when they actually collected it and what it is and identify it and all that kind of stuff, it could be kind of this like collective herbarium that, you know, people do. So I like that type of stuff to kind of bring in the community and see what other people have done and like use it as a sense of discovery. Some are other books down here. And then this one I should mention is the Foxfire books. This is some of the books that I grew up with as a kid. I didn't have all 12, but there are 12 of them. And basically this young man decided to go into Appalachia and really record all the wisdom of kind of the old timers of Appalachia, from everything from gardening to cleaning a hide to building a fire and everything in between. So they have themes. And I decided to get like the whole collection. I actually saw it at auction and it went for so much at auction that I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. I could probably get new copies for less than that. But I think this is something that I really admire. And even when with our own channel, when we're able to actually, you know, feature people who have some of this old knowledge, this wisdom, it feels like it's a living foxfire that we're actually creating with the channel as well. So this is something that I really admire, and I think people would actually enjoy it as well. Some of our lighting fixtures, I should just point out, are like kind of this brass, so they'll start to antique naturally. And that texture of like the basket weaving, so even on the chairs and the baskets where the plants are in, things along those lines, I think those are, you know, really important just to feel like this natural nature of this house. Should we go to the kitchen? this is probably one of my favorite rooms of the house, is the kitchen. And this was a piece that was actually done by Lee, and our kitchen pantry. So you see we have all of our utensils in here. I actually found these beautiful brass utensils at auction, which is like amazing. Not a full set, but enough. And then we have some of our things in here. So we have the toaster and the mixer and your blender and things like that. And all the linens are over here, and some extra bowls and things. But we, again, had this kind of vertical nature with like mimicking the wainscoting. And we decided that we would paint this ourselves. And then we wanted to do like a cherry top and then this darker green that works with the sage, but is just a slightly darker color. I think it was called oak moss, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. Can't remember the name of it.
Well, we wanted to match the kitchen. That's why we had it done unpainted.
Yeah.
So that we could match it.
And we didn't know what color at the time we were going to make our kitchen. So Sonder mimicked what Lee had done and built this entire kitchen. This is his first kitchen that he built. You did an excellent job. Even the banquette, which we'll show you shortly, but this, again, oh, and also I should say the vertical nature of this, so with the sink, and then all the way up to the tile here in the back. So we wanted to do a vertical tile as opposed to horizontal. I don't know if you want to talk about this yourself, I could even film you, but like this is where the recycling and trash goes. This, though, is where your vegetables go when you're cutting your vegetables. So you could actually take this cutting board out, and you could cut your vegetables here, theoretically, if you had nothing on it.
What's that over there?
And these holes in the back, you may recall I had this in my house in Brooklyn, but you could pull this out, and this is where all the compost shavings go that you don't want to use, and then you could just take this out and compost it. And then when you're finished, you could just push this back and you don't even see the holes in there. So I love that. This one is not a drawer, so it almost looks as if it's not a drawer, but it's like this hidden drawer. So that's pretty cool. That's like the really cool feature here in the kitchen. Also, I love this that you did. So if you open that up, this beautiful Lazy Susan.
Yeah,
Again,
it's one that rests on shelves, and it doesn't have one of those poles in the middle. It's always in the way.
yeah, the pole is not there, so it actually has a bit of a, so we have all of our pots and pans up here and some extra water, and then we have these beautiful wooden bowls. Again, I got all this at auction. It's like pretty nuts, but this, I got at auction probably for like 20 bucks, and I love the color of it because it matches the cherry. And then take a look at some of these bowls. I mean, amazing. Like just that kind of patina. This one is done in Munising. I think this is in Michigan. Maybe it's Minnesota. But anyway, they stopped producing bowls, I think, in the 50s. And if you find one with that city name on the back, then you have a real collectible. These are ones that I'm just finding like around here, which is kind of amazing. So it just really adds to the history of this house, or just making history in this house, by paying homage to where we are in the area. So that's that. And then we have this little oven, which is actually a European oven. So we have to do a translation too, because obviously 120 Fahrenheit is not the same as 120 degrees Celsius here. So we have to kind of make that, if somebody's staying here in here, we don't want to confuse them. And then we have an induction top. So one thing you want to make sure is that you want to make sure that all of your pots are induction. So we actually can't use, I don't think copper actually works here, but copper will work on the wood stove. So it's one of those things that you want to like make sense of what you have.
Wait,
and what you're putting in.
Copper doesn't work? It does.
A copper pot won't work here.
Okay, won't.
Yeah.
Right.
And then what else do we have? I mean, like just little accoutrements, like here's our salt. And then we found this beautiful glass in the back, again, a vintage piece. We could just have your distilled water. And again, we went with like nice hardware. This is kind of fancy. You put your glass there and you clean your glass on
Why
it.
don't you show it? Just grab a glass.
Oh yeah. So that's one way to actually wash your glass at the end of the day. I actually found these bowls and I didn't know if they would work with the color, and they almost like work perfectly. These are actually two different bowls. So this is different from these. So I found these in Brooklyn, and this is from artisans that I actually had sourced in Ukraine, and I had gotten some of their terracotta in the past. And obviously feels a little bit more relevant getting that from them now, but it has like kind of this gold leaf edge, which I thought was really beautiful, that kind of matched some of the brass. And then we have like all of we have rice here, like our black rice and our granola and peppercorn and pasta, and then we even have like oatmeal in here. So people could actually, you know, make their tea. We have like a little electric tea kettle here, or you could actually put water on here, the stove, a lot of things like that. We got this table, this trestle table from Hunt Country Furniture, which is also based in New York. So they handcrafted this out of cherry, and we got to pick the stain. And believe it or not, I got this chair at auction for like, I think $5. And I really love these spindle table chairs. And it's almost like the exact color. And this was, I believe, a Stickley chair, which was a famous furniture designer. So, and sourced these at auction too, and then we just repainted them so the same color as the kitchen. And I've got these in 2 different auctions, unbelievable. And we've like, this is really helpful because if you have to grab something from a top shelf, or if you need to like water your plants from a top shelf. But yeah, so speaking of I got distracted, but like the banquette seating was something that I think we had the idea of like right from the get-go. And wonderful woman actually handcrafted these seats out of the same fabric that the couch is made out of. So it has this like really nice honey-colored fabric. And I'd have to take this off, but you could see that this is all storage space, which I think people have seen before, but that's basically all storage space in here. So you could store your extra pantry items or anything along those lines, maybe extra pots and pans. And Sonder built this whole banquette. And you can see we actually repurposed some of the wainscoting from the wall that we took out. And he curved this edge and just like looked at everything and figured out like how are you gonna do this? Like how is the edge going to be? And yeah, so you could just sit back in here. And we wanted to get a trestle table because the trestle table kind of comes inwards and you won't hit your like knees on it. So no matter where you're sitting, you can actually have space for your legs, and you could fit quite a lot of people around this table. Or if you're choosing to actually open up your laptop and have your little workstation here, or if you're reading books or anything along those lines, you really have the space to do it.
It's really easy to slide this over because it's up on those soft pads. So you could easily rotate the table around and have more like a couch situation.
Right, and you could do it like vertical and then have all this space over here. So it's really awesome. The brass light we sourced, this is also from India, so this is all handcrafted. And we had to select like how far it would come down. One of the things that we did change in here is where the electrical was, so we wanted to make sure that the electrical was in the center of this window so that when somebody might look in, creeper, if somebody's looking in, then we'd have like the light right in the middle of the window. So that symmetry, I think, was really important to us at the end of the day.
Talk about these shelves.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot about that. So one of the things that Lee had was this old 150-year-old barn wood from a barn that was salvaged probably like within 50 miles of here. And it's just exquisite. I mean, look at this color and this patina. And so we asked him if he could save us some boards that we could do a live edge. And look at how we did it around the curve. This was really challenging. You could see some of the clay is coming off here. And just trying to fit that in was a challenge in and of itself. But we went around and hand selected what each sill would be. And so every sill is a little different. We even put it over there, which the plants are on now, and throughout the living room as well. And you'll see those boards as we go into the bathroom because he made all the furniture out of that. And then that's when we suggested, oh, can you actually save us some boards for the sill? Because we really like that deeper sill. I like the deeper sill because you could put plants on it, but also it just really gives that nice kind of look. One thing I should say is that I think I'm gonna get another painting for over here, so that's why there's like little things that we could still do within the house, but they're just like very minimal. But this is another painting that I sourced from the same auction that I got the other painting from. It really spoke to me. I just like the colors and everything match with the cherry and the brass and the cream, and that just like turn of the century, quaint, quiet, just a slower time. And I felt like it really spoke to this house. So we went with that. We do have quite a bit of storage in the kitchen, but we didn't have a spice rack. And sometimes people will have like spice racks that you could pull out from the drawer. I like to have a spice rack that you could see because you know what you have and you know like what you're missing or you need to get something new to refill it. And so I had Sonder make this spice rack. I saw this design actually similar to this design on Etsy. And so we actually sourced these little brass poles and yeah, made a beautiful little spice rack there. I think it was perfect. We were thinking about like putting shelves here, but if I have a shelf, I'm gonna put a plant on it. So I might as well just like make something that feels a bit more utilitarian because you can only have so many plants. Oh, and I should also mention this, right?
Yeah, the stove top.
This is like a hood vent that Sonder crafted himself. And we have like a whole how-to on this. But he used a micro cement topper. So that's why I got confused with the colored concrete. But this, we wanted to do it more akin to like a Venetian plaster, but using the micro cement topper and also paying homage to the color of the walls and also matching the color of this. So we think that turned out really well. Because the clay is not applied in a uniform pattern and you could see that there's a lot of texture to it, it's actually hard to fit something flush against the wall.
Yeah, it's not flat. So everywhere you touch, you have to put some kind of trim piece that's flexible, that's gonna be able to move with the texture of the, the clay in order to make it fit.
Exactly. So a lot of these trim pieces we were using in other places, and then we would just say, oh, maybe that trim piece would actually do well there. So those are certain things that we kind of like thought about. Now, one of the other things, like we have these little we used every space possible for storage here and there. But then also we have a built-in refrigerator and freezer. So that's another thing that I think people would be like, oh my God, it looks like cabinets. But yeah, it's really built in, and we felt like that felt right for this place because we didn't, I mean, this is a big kitchen. This is a full kitchen for a 600 square foot place. You don't feel like you're claustrophobic. It feels really open. You have a full kitchen. But I think it's also because we really planned this out. I mean, you photoshopped things.
Yeah, and just to speak about the planning, the door to the bathroom used to be right here.
I mentioned.
So that would only give you this amount of counter space. So what we did is we went around towards the bedroom and put the door into this wall, which gave us double the size of the kitchen now because we have this entire wall here and we have that same amount of space on the other side of the wall for in the bathroom.
Yes, I totally blacked out on that. That was one of the first things that you had actually mentioned when we were going through here, I think in January, February, 2 years ago. You were like, I think we should block up this door and put it there. And the user experience also makes sense because you don't want to have to get up at night, stumble your way through the kitchen to go to the bathroom. You want to get out of your bed and go to the bathroom. And the fact that we have all this more kitchen space and the fact that we left this wall to keep the pantry, I think really gave us an opportunity, as opposed to having something like an open concept, and then you would have lost this wall too. So those are certain things that we actually definitely thought about and mulled over before we actually went into the design. Which brings us into the bathroom. Now, the kitchen definitely is a favorite room of mine, but this bathroom, damn, it's really good. The one thing about this place is that it had a huge bathroom already. But it could have been bigger. But if you recall, this was all closet space that had the water heater and the water pump, and it was taking up a lot of space. And then we talked about the sink was here, and then this was a very small shower, and the toilet was there. And it felt very claustrophobic when you got in here though, because this closet space really took up a hunk of a space. And then you switched.
Yeah, so the big window used to be here, which is, I don't know, it's better if it's here. And
well, especially if you're taking a shower, because that's a small window. I want to see the full.
Well, yeah, exactly. So we we did it initially to be able to put the shower still here. Well, yeah, it's complicated, but eventually the shower was only this little square size.
It was
here.
like, it was basically this.
And you thought of the idea of extending it.
Which was a brilliant idea at onset, but it was very challenging to do. Building a curved shower bed, you can't just drop in a curved shower bed with the curve that you want. People just don't make it. You know, we have a whole video on that, so I'm not going to go into it. Well, I'll just link to it. But we had a whole trial and tribulation of actually doing this curved shower bed, and also this curved shower rod was probably 10 times harder. So, you know, there's a lot of trial and error with this.
But it makes the bathroom even bigger, because imagine if it were to come out square.
Yep.
You know, you would really feel pinched when you were walking through.
Or knock your foot on it.
Or hit your foot on the corner.
Oh, I should say that these are heated floors. So we have a little heater right here. And that was one thing that Sonder had suggested, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah, because with these mini splits, the heat kind of stays in the air. It doesn't really soak into the flooring because the heat wants to rise. And it doesn't really want to come into these corners, like this bathroom corner here. So having extra heat is just nicer to have. Yeah.
One of the things that we'll probably have to finish in here is that we do have this kind of glazing for the bottom windows so that you do have a bit more privacy. But one of the things that we actually hope as well is, as you recall, we just did some trellis systems on the outside. Well, this is the window that hopefully when the plants go over, it'll actually provide a little bit of extra privacy. But one of the things that we still have to do is like put that opaque window. It's like this. It just basically
it's a window
blocks
film.
it out. It's a film, but we don't want to put it on the top because we still want light to come through. It's really nice light in here.
So part of the reason why we wanted to keep a window there, even though we took out the big one and we put the small one in, is because of the light. And you could see it right now.
Yeah.
It shines all the way through, and that's the reason why this door is also glass. So there's different filter layers where the light can get filtered. First by the plants, then by the window film, then by the shower curtain, then by the door, and then it eventually gets into the bathroom in the bedroom in the morning so that you can wake up to that. Yeah,
and we wanted to go with like a more gauzy look because it feels spa-like. And we already talked about this already, and I'll link to the video, but we did Tadillac process, which is basically the Moroccan lime process, where we didn't want to do any type of tile in the bathroom on the walls. So this is basically reconstituted lime, 6 layers with wax and olive oil soap, so that actually makes it watertight. The only places that we have tile are here, like on the horizontal surfaces, because if water's sitting on this, it doesn't really do exceptionally well. You want to have the water wash off, and we even have one of these that if the water's staying on the wall, you could just squeegee it off. So that's just kind of the care tips. Another thing, if you ever decide to do this, is that it feels so good. That's why I'm like petting the wall.
Yeah, it's kind of like stone.
It's like a cool stone. It just basically reconstitutes into stone. But because it's lime, you don't want to use any kind of harsh chemicals of acids like citric. Like, so sometimes when you have bathroom cleaners, it's like lemon, and you don't want to use any of that. So you want to treat this the same way as you treat the floors. So this may look like a marble, but it's actually travertine. And the crazy thing about this tile, going through trial and tribulations, is that we ended up getting this at discount from Floor & Decor because travertine is like really not in style. and they were trying to get rid of it. And this was the whitest travertine that we could find. Sometimes it's a little bit more yellow or pink. And when we went into the store, this was like the only one that they had, and they had like almost like just enough. Well, when it got to us, it was like shattered, like 40%, 50% of it was shattered. And we wanted to do this mosaic tile, so you notice it's not like all the same shape. And that, I think, is what saved us, because Sandra actually measured each and every one and then said, oh my God, we have just enough to finish the bathroom floor.
Don't look underneath the washing machine, because it might be not enough tiles there.
Might be a little shattered back there. Speaking of that, we have a full washer dryer here, and we have, this is the antique wood from the old barn wood. So you could actually see everything from the saw marks, and we have all our extra towels and stuff in there as well. And it's just really nice. And we wanted to basically have that kind of antique wood look, with same as with the washstand. And then we just have all the extra things. Oh yeah, this is something that you finished. You finished the edges of this.
One thing I like to do is I like to put a little piece on here, because you just see the edge of the plywood and it's not as nice. But then adding this on is great. But then I didn't realize that the top drawer is very tight.
Yeah.
So I gotta shave a little bit off of this. I could take the drawer out and just take a little off of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, the other drawers are absolutely fine with that. And then, but look at this, look at the edging on here, just so beautiful. I mean, so gorgeous. So yeah, we basically have all the extra stuff for folks if they stay here, if they forget their toothbrush or anything, that's here. And then we had Lee do a medicine cabinet. So this was a blank wall before. I guess we could have done a nice art piece here, but you know, I love art and I love like little elements of it, but sometimes you just want something really functional. And we do have like a first aid kit that's actually under there, but I feel like a medicine cabinet just makes sense. We have a bunch of our herbs and like easy bandages that you could get, or bug spray or sunscreen, things along those lines, mouthwash. And then, yeah, just like basically source some more things. This is, you know, a teak stool, so you could actually take this into the shower as well. It could totally get wet. You could use it outside. And I just think of the shower, I mean, it looks like a spa. I'm not sure what to do with this plant. I just have it here for right now. I'm like kind of hoping I could hang it up somewhere, but I just don't know where. One of the pieces of artwork that we got is this beautiful, I can't remember where she's from, but she does these really beautiful like sea creatures and fungi and everything like that. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, it looks like it's just part of the lime wall, and it's just emerging out of that. So we ended up getting that and hanging it right there by the washstand. But you could, you know, washer and dryer, fold all your clothes here. If you have like dainty items, like, I don't know, like your socks or your bras or panties or something, you could wash them in here. And then here's the lights. So you can see a little bit more like that. And just really wonder, I mean, how many bathrooms have you gone into that have absolutely no light? This is awesome because it has like the light that comes through. You can actually see the birds out there. You can see the garden, but you still feel like you're in a private home.
Well, it's often the first room you get into after you wake up, so it will really help you wake up with some light.
Yeah. I don't know if I said this, but we had two windows over here, and we closed this off. This is the north side of the house. It's not great having northern windows, only from the fact of like, that's where a lot of the cold air comes in. Yeah. But this was made a bit more private by
So there were multiple reasons.
That wall.
Because after taking out the old windows, these were the only windows that had actually water damage in the corners outside, because there's just not enough sun to dry out the water damage. The other thing is we needed some kind of backboard for the bed.
Yeah.
So having just a plain wall in this place would be nice, because every single wall had windows in this building. So lots of reasons to take it out. It's also better to have the insulation in there than a window, especially on the north side. So.
And then also in my house in Brooklyn, I had storage under the bed, which I thought was really smart. Again, because we have a lot of lack of storage here. You know, not really. I feel like we have a lot of storage here for what the size of the place, but it's just sensible creating something like this because you could actually fit a lot of clothes. We have 4 of these, so 2 on each side. And that's just like really perfect.
This is some of the plywood stuff that you would see.
Oh yeah, so if we
Which
had
in this case it's not so bad
nice.
because it matches the outside
yeah,
here,
it's a kind of brown, tan brown. And then we had Lee also do these bedside stands. So we have like little things in here. I have some books and things. And then of course like...
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. You gotta
have it
hold
on
it at the same time.
I know, I gotta have it like on the thing. Yeah, so that's nice. Oh, we still are gonna get like some carpets that roll out here, some runners on each side because I think it's nice, even though we love the wide floorboards here, that we, you know, just having something that you get when you have your stocking feet and you just like go down onto a carpet, it feels a little bit nicer. So that should be coming in sometime this week. But anything that I forgot, I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot here.
Yeah. We just took it, since this was an office, it's also kind of funny, but we have a lot of outlets and a lot of like internet plugs on the wall. There were like existing speakers, so we put in. Oh yeah,
the speaker system.
You know, just put in speakers that match the house.
This is a fresh air unit as well, so.
Yeah, this building, even though you can open up a window at any time in the winter, it's nice to have fresh air. And then, because it's quite small, you want to make sure that there's fresh air in here. So yeah, I think the other thing to do is check out the outside.
Yeah, I think maybe some of the fog has blown off, but maybe not all. So let's go check it out. Okay, so the fog is sufficiently blown off. And you've seen bits and bobs of this house for a little while over some of the videos, but you'll recall 2 years ago, this was just a vinyl siding.
Said that you've been hurt one too many times before. Ended up staring in the bathroom mirror, crying on your bedroom floor. Baby, you can take my word, you haven't gotta hurt no more. Things about to get much better. I wanna make this forever. I wanna make this forever.
And it was just a rectangle. And we had some mold damage off on the side of the north face of the house. And then we decided that we wanted to do something a bit more traditional. So we decided to do board and batten siding, which is what you typically find on barns here. Do you want to talk about that a little bit more, Sander?
Yeah, so we chose hemlock siding, and I actually designed it so that every window is centered on a board or on a gap. So if you look at the front here, it looks very symmetric because everything is lined up exactly. Even here on this side, you can see that that window is lined up perfectly, and then the chimney takes up exactly 4 boards wide. So it just looks a lot more cozy with this wood on the side.
Yeah.
It looks a lot more like a home.
And I think that it leaned again into what we were saying before, is just like leaning into what we felt like the house wanted and where it was in the context of the region and also the land. And so we leaned into that kind of cottage vibe and then just provided interest. And what we mean by interest is just like something that moved away from the rectangular nature of the space and built more depth. And so one of the things that we saw when we were like at the Ithaca Eco Village, we noticed like these crossbucks on someone's porch and thought, wow, that would be perfect for the Meadow House. And it makes you feel a little bit more protected. And then when you're sitting down, I'm not gonna sit down there because it's a little wet this morning, but when you're sitting down in the big rocker, or if you're on the bucket bench taking off your shoes, you could still see over the top of it into the meadow area. And I think that was like really important. Just again, another user experience feature.
It also matches look at the fog coming off the roof, by the way. The angle of this little triangle on the roof is kind of the only place where that angle plays out. So it allows us to bring that same line down towards the ground on the front side where you're only seeing that angle. So.
And then one of the things that was my favorite feature on the outside of this house is that we decided to actually put a birdhouse in the gable. And we did this cedar shake, but a bit more refined cedar shake. And then in that house actually has a little camera. So you're able to actually see the birds that move in there. Obviously, it's not the season when birds move in there. My bet is that it's gonna be a tree swallow next year in there. But that's like a perfect place for a little
Yeah, it had to have some
house.
kind of interest in the middle of that triangle. You couldn't just put cedar shake there and call it good.
Yeah.
But a window wouldn't make sense because the window would lead to nowhere. And anything else would be, I don't know, a birdhouse right in front of a huge meadow made the most sense.
Yeah, we joke too because we're like, oh, it's like the bud built the house and there's a human living in the back. But we like the idea of also using this as surface area for organisms, for animals to have as well. So on this side, not to overshadow Saunders' like amazing framing of this chimney, but we have a number of bees that were living in here, probably a lot of osmias and a number of others, but you could see that they plug their holes either with grass and foliage or also just mud. So this has been a little bee home on the side of the house. And we have another platform for birds on the other side of the house. But again, building the interest off of this side. Again, I had mentioned on the inside that Sonder didn't really like how the roof kind of met at this like weird angle. And so building the chimney from both of a design feature, but also a functional feature so that we actually have a chimney for our wood stove. Otherwise you can't have a wood stove without the chimney. And then let's go over on this side. This is the shed, perfectly functional. So imagine you're gonna pick up some of the wood from, you need some more wood outside. I think we need a little chopping block here. So if you wanna cut it up because that wood stove is actually quite small, but you could stack this with wood. I also have like our fat wood right here. So this is good for fire starting. Also smells delicious. So that's perfect. And yeah, great storage shed as well. You could put all your garden gear in here. Opens up to this beautiful garden that we salvaged. I'm still planting things here and there. I just planted a couple roses and we have to work on that side. But I think we could also come around here and see what we did on the other side of the house, which you had hints of with building the raised bed and the trellis system. Well, we've pretty much finished this side of the house, but we have the patio. And one thing I didn't mention is that Sonder did a micro cement topping on this patio on both sides, just to kind of give it feels nicer on the feet. It gives it a different color. And I think it matches better with the planters. So we kind of went more cinnamon cedar tones on that side and a bit more like French country, whitewashed, limestoney vibes on this side. But here's the trellis system. And then we actually just added this yesterday, which is this little platform. So like phoebes and robins could actually build their nest here, which I think if I were a bird, this would be perfect. Eastern light, you get some southern light on this side. You have a plant growing up here, your little thing, and a little roof over your head. If I were a bird, that's where I would want to put my nest. And then we salvaged this from an auction, and I finished the bottom, and Sonder actually spray painted the bottom as well after I got the rust off, and then he refinished this top, and you wouldn't even know that this is 2 wood pieces just glued together. It absolutely looks gorgeous. And one of the things that we're still waiting for on this side is a copper awning, kind of Bourbon Street style awning that just comes out a little bit. And I think that will also add a little bit more interest in addition to the trellis and the raised bed system. We just didn't want to have a flat face to the bed, just kind of something that extrudes out.
Well, you need to protect the door.
And you need to protect the door, yeah.
When I took this door out, it has rotten completely on the bottoms here. So what we've done is we put an extra screen door in front of it that can rot first before the actual door rots. And then we're gonna put an awning on so it protects it from the rain.
And here's an example of some of that door pull that we had on the inside for the armoire. And we have kind of a similar, it's actually the same one on the outside as well. So we have that like on the shed door and things along those lines. So we were gonna go with a traditional handle. It just didn't look right for this door. But we just assembled this one yesterday. And yeah, so little bits by little bits as things come in, we put the finishing touches on it. But a lot of the details you almost like don't see. I mean, even this, like these vents and stuff, Sonder painted. Even some of the electrical outlets, which might be behind here somewhere, they're painted. Yeah, so they're painted, and it just makes it, you know, seamlessly blend into the house. Because sometimes you look on a house and then you see all of that stuff, and it's just, it's cacophonous. It almost like doesn't work. So the vibe of this house is just to be very calming and cool and collected, and that's how you feel when you get down here. And I think like maybe our next steps for houses like this, and in addition to just putting on the awning and putting out the rugs and thing, is to focus on the landscaping out here, which will be a whole other video and maybe something for next year. But we'd like to like replace the deer fence. Maybe we'll do some espalier trees on there. And then probably back this way, we'll take up some of the grass and put a nice little garden so you could feel a little bit more protected. And then on this side, which is a weedy mess, essentially that's what that bed used to look like. Just this weedy mess, taking that out and maybe putting a rock garden. So some real overhaul in the landscape area, but I think we got a good start. But that's the Meadow House. This is the story of the Meadow House, and we'll have to maintain it, you know, over the years, but for the most part, we are so pleased how this came together, and are really looking forward to being able to actually stay in it now.